The Home Pros Radio Show.
Welcome to the Home Pros Radio Show podcast. I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections and your co-host for the Home Pros Radio Show. Shane Hips with Closing Contractor is also your host for the Home Pros Radio Show, and we both enjoy tackling the various questions that you toss our way each week. Here are a few of our recent calls.
Let's talk with Ed, who has this question about siding. How are you? Good morning, Ed.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
Good. Doing well.
Okay, I just moved down here from up north, and I've noticed after a couple of years the siding on my house has this black, I guess it's a mold growth all over the house. Okay, I want to pressure wash it along with the soffit, the fascia, and everything. Am I going to get into trouble if I get any water, either A, behind the siding, or B, up in the fascia where it has the holes where it's, where it breathes?
Like where the soffit vents are, right underneath the eaves there?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Well, if everything is installed correctly, wouldn't you agree, Shane, that it should actually shed the water adequately?
It should shed the water. I wouldn't just be, just continually shooting water in the areas where it's going to get behind the siding or up in the eaves. But technically, once you clean it, it shouldn't be getting any more water after that. So it's not going to be a continuous supply of water. Right. I wouldn't worry so much about that. But like I say, at the same time, I wouldn't, just continue to shoot water in a place where it is getting behind the siding or up in there. But a house is going to take on some water. Houses do even get water behind the siding. But it's not a continuous supply of water. So it doesn't create the rot and all that generally. I honestly wouldn't worry. I wouldn't stress out over it, but at the same time, I wouldn't just, concentrate.
Fire away at the soffit vents.
I wouldn't fire away at the vents.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
What is this black stuff? What is it?
It's actually mold. It's mildew. What ends up happening? See, mold and mildew. What kind of siding do you have? Is it vinyl?
Vinyl, yes.
It is. And normally mold doesn't grow on vinyl because mold grows on cellulose materials. But what tends to happen is as a home gets dirty, especially this time of year, it gets pollen stuck to it, it gets dirt and dust. It ends up actually providing enough of a substrate for mold spores to land, get wet, and then they'll bloom. So that's the purpose of pressure washing. So you noticing that and then telling yourself, I need a pressure wash, you're doing the right thing, because all we need to do now is clean off the siding and it'll go away. But is
there anything I can use to prevent that in the future from growing?
Not necessarily. It's just a matter of kind of like cleaning your gutters, just maintaining the exterior of your home, making sure it stays clean.
And it's generally on the side that doesn't get as much sun as well.
Yeah,
just because the sun, it'll be, usually one side will be worse than the rest of them, and it's going to be the side that gets the least amount of sun.
And it's the highest point. It's always the highest point to get to.
Oh, yeah.
That's Murphy's Law right there.
Yes.
So, well, I hope that helped out, Ed. I appreciate your call.
It certainly did, and thanks for being here in the mornings, guys.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks for the call.
It's nice to hear from folks out there. We have a breaker question here on line 1 from Wayne. Hello, Wayne. Welcome to the Home Pros.
Hey, I got a question about a breaker I have tripping in my kitchen. It's not actually the breaker. It's where you plug stuff in there. It's got the little button on it that will trip, I guess, when it's a power surge or whatever. And every time it rains really, really hard around the house, for some reason that button will pop out and I will lose power on that wall in the kitchen. I've never had any leaks on the roof, never had any leaks on the, through the walls or anything like that. Where would water be hitting that would be making the breaker trip?
My first question is going to be, how old is your house?
It was built in 95.
Okay. And I'll tell you the reason I asked that question is because more modern houses, which your house does fall in that category, is, they're separate circuits for kitchen countertop receptacles, then they're separate for bathrooms, and they're separate for exterior receptacles. So it's sort of, so I'm a little bit confused why rain would make the one in your kitchen trip, because it shouldn't. And now, keep that in mind. That's just it shouldn't be tied in with anything on the exterior of the house or in the garage. It should only be tied into other receptacles in the kitchen. So my recommendation would be to possibly replace that receptacle, because it's a ground fault receptacle is what you're talking about, correct? The rectangular looking? Okay. Yeah, my recommendation would be to, I tell you what you can do to get you a good idea what all of that receptacle feeds. If you trip it, make it turn off, and then check the other receptacles in the kitchen to see which other ones turned off whenever that one was off. And that's going to give you a good idea of what all that
circuit.
Yeah, what all's on that particular ground fault receptacle circuit. So by doing that, your problem should be in one of those receptacles that just turned off. And maybe you want to, whenever you trip it, go check your outside receptacles and see if if one of them happened to get tied in with it. It's not common practice, but
on the back side of that wall is my back deck, and it has a receptacle out there. And I'm wondering, maybe since you said that, I wonder if maybe rainwater would be hitting it. And I'm pretty sure it's tied into what's in the kitchen also. So I'm wondering if rainwater could be hitting it and making it trip when it rains really hard.
If it is tied into it, that could be where your problem is. You could change the kind of cover that's on that receptacle to keep rainwater from getting in there, or there are other ways to change it to make it correct. If you could, you would change the way that everything's hooked up to that first ground fault, and then put a separate ground fault outside. It's something you could do to repair that. It's something it's a little bit more challenging to explain over the air, but that's probably where your problem is. I'd say the simplest solution would probably be to put a cover on it where water wouldn't splash up in that receptacle whenever it is raining, if it is in fact tied into your kitchen receptacles.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Is that not normal to have it tied into something indoors?
No.
Well, it depends. Right?
Well, yeah, it depends on the age of the house. But the current code, all kitchen countertop receptacles, you're supposed to have 2 kitchen countertop receptacle circuits, and those are only supposed to go to each other. I mean, that's separate from everything else. Then you're supposed to have bathroom circuits, and bathroom circuits aren't supposed to have anything else on the bathroom. And then a lot of times your outside receptacles will be tied in with wherever the closest receptacle is, but it's supposed to be one of the just regular receptacle circuits, not your kitchen circuit. And then sometimes you'll see the ground fault in the garage will jump from the garage to the outside to where that ground fault will cover all of that. So it's not normal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's tied in. I'm pretty sure it's tied in, because the reason I say that is in the winter when my Christmas lights are hooked in, when it trips, all my Christmas lights on the outside go out. So pretty sure it's tied into what's in the kitchen also.
Yeah, so that's definitely where your problem is then, if that's happening, because the best thing to do is there's all kind of new like bubble covers where you can leave things plugged in while the cover is shut. There's different kinds of covers. I would just recommend getting a good cover for it. But the absolute correct way to do it would be to get it on another circuit in the house. But that you're probably getting into more than what it's worth to you at this point in time.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it, guys.
No problem.
Thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Now, let's turn to the topic of plumbing, and one issue that I see on almost a daily basis. It's that loose toilet, a topic that Shane and I tackled just recently on the show.
All right, you have that toilet that you're constantly trying to tighten, and it doesn't doesn't tighten down, doesn't stay tightened. What's the problem with that there, Shane?
You're probably going to have some subfloor issues, where the bolt's just not catching anything solid. Mm-hmm. You got to have good subfloor there for everything to tighten up.
Yeah. So you have bolts that are holding, well, what happens? You got a couple things going on there. So you got your hole in the floor where the toilet is, and then you have your drain, and then you have a flange, your toilet flange that fits into the drain, and there's a lip on that flange that flares out over the flooring. So you have bolts that are tightening that flange to the floor, and if you have damage in the subfloor and those bolts are loose, your toilet is not going to secure.
Right.
Then you have your not tank bolts, but the toilet base bolts that hold the toilet to the floor by utilizing the flange to try to keep everything tight. So sometimes if you're tightening down those bolts from the top side, it may be that you've got flooring or a lack thereof,
right,
that your flange bolts aren't tightening are not tightening down too.
Yeah, and this is one of these situations you really need to get taken care of, because if the toilet's not pulling tight to if everything there is not secure, the problem keeps getting worse because you have a water leak that's getting out around the flange, and then if you don't have everything tight there, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. So and basically you have to repair the subfloor in order to be able to secure the toilet good. It's just a snowball. Mm-hmm. It's a snowball. You've got to get it all repaired.
And if you're looking at that vinyl floor and you're seeing that stain increase, kind of like a grayish kind of stain, mm-hmm. that is actually caused by moisture that's getting underneath the linoleum, and it's the flooring's way of letting you know, hey, I got water underneath here. So you want to go ahead and call the guy to get that fixed.
Yeah.
That's one interesting thing about that type of material is they actually engineer it in a way that it talks to you.
Yeah.
It lets you know, hey, there's something going on and needs to be fixed. Real quick, we've got a call in here from Eddie in Simpsonville. What you got there, Eddie?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I love your show. And a very quick fix for that tank flange bolt. Put 2 sets of bolts on the bolt, on the flange, and then one on the top.
Mm-hmm.
It'll lock it into place, so even with heavier people getting up and getting down, it doesn't rock back loose again.
Excellent. Good stuff there, Eddie. I appreciate it. Thanks for the call.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good stuff there. And we should have Eddie on the show with us hosting. He knows some good, helpful information. Home Pros listeners looking out for each other. Love it.
Thanks again for the good questions that we've been receiving for the Home Pros. Don't forget, we're taking your questions even when we're not on the air. Visit our website at homeprosradio.com or simply email us directly at ask@homeprosradio.com. We're always reviewing the questions that come in, and we love the opportunity to share the questions and topics that matter to you. That's homeprosradio.com, or email us directly, ask@homeprosradio.com. Include your name and where you're from so we can include you on the show. Thanks again for listening. I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections. We'll see you next time on the Home Pros Radio Show.
Thanks for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show. Meet more Home Pros at homeprosradio.com. There, you can also catch full episodes of our show, along with additional information to ensure that your home is in perfect shape. It's the Home Pros Radio Show, brought to you by Prime Lending, home loans made simple. The Home Pros Radio Show, online at homeprosradio.com or on the radio at 94.5 WGTK, The Answer.